Welcome to Season 1, Episode 11 of the Everyday Podcast, aka EDP, which is your gateway to the casual side of business. I am your co-host, Andrew Sadikoff, and to my left is your wonderful host,
Matt Esposito. And let's introduce our other guest tonight. So first off, our returning guest, Mr. Jared Sugar, who is our creative director at EDE and a multimedia specialist at EDS.
Great to be here, guys.
Jared, welcome back.
Thank you.
To Jared's right is Nick D'Ambrosio, who is the owner of Big Splash Graphics. Nick, welcome to the podcast. We're excited to have you on tonight.
What's going on, guys?
All right. So, as Andrew said, episode 11, which is titled Building Your Entrepreneurial Empire. For all the audience, if you haven't seen episode 10, which is now out, the title was titled Let's Talk Digital Marketing, where we had Kevin and Ted on and we talked all things digital marketing. So be sure to check that out. And before we dive into the topics, just a general podcast update. The giveaway is still going on for two $25 Visa gift cards. So check the post on our Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn for the details on that. I'll be sure to enter because we're picking a winner next week.
That's right.
I feel like we just introduced the giveaway, and now here we are at the end of the season.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
I can't believe how quickly the season's coming to an end. I mean, we only have one episode left after this.
I know. But season 2 will be here shortly.
How often you guys plan on doing like episodes?
So we do 12 episodes a season.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're gonna bump that up to way
Yeah. It'll probably get to that point.
Right now, that's your goal. You set your goal, and then you set a new goal, and
it'll probably be like
keep
20
going.
or 30
That's
soon.
the way it
So,
goes.
all right. So diving into a topics breakdown for today's podcast episode. So first off, Nick's going to tell us a little bit about Big Splash Graphics and a couple other businesses that he owns. He's going to dive into his journey as an entrepreneur. Andrew's going to discuss, what it takes to take your idea/business to the next level, aka building your empire. And last but not least, we have a little interview, question roundtable for Nick. We have a couple questions for him. All right, Nick. So why don't you tell everyone what is Big Splash Graphics?
So, Big Splash Graphics. Oh, let me start by saying a couple things before I get into that. So, do you want me to introduce myself first?
I have that after this, but you could do whichever you want first.
So, I've had a handful of people ask me and tell me, hey, I want you to get on my podcast, do this. You're the first person who actually followed through and made it happen. So I think it's going to be fun.
Absolutely.
Because I could talk for days. Now you just got to kind of steer me in the right direction. So I'll start with Big Splash Graphics, and then I'll go into whatever question you guys got. So Big Splash Graphics, I would say I took over the company about 2 years ago. It was technically a failing company, and an opportunity arose, and I knew absolutely nothing about the industry, the business, but being an entrepreneur and a businessman, I've had a lot of experience. So I saw the potential in it, I jumped on it, and I had the old owner actually train me. I had him under contract for about a year. When that happened, I realized, wow, this is actually a lot of work, and it was very technical, but the design and the creative aspect of it, like the ability to make me create things, I loved it. So I did fall in love, but it was a lot of work because I have a lot of other businesses to also handle. So I'll explain what Big Splash is. Big Splash is pretty much a full-blown branding company, but branding in the aspect of hard, tangible material, like something you could actually hold. It's nothing digital. You do digital. I'm more tangible, like touch it, hold it, feel it. You know what I mean, type of thing. So I can make anything from a banner to routed out PVC boards with someone's head, and then I can print out the picture of the person and put it on that shape. Business cards, any type of print collateral, pretty much. But my main thing is that I wrap vehicles. So we have, you sit down, you have a consult, you go through the whole graphic process of exactly what you want. We create a proof on the computer, we send it back and forth until we get it, perfect. Then we print it out and install it. I mean, that makes it sound very simple. It's a very time-consuming, lengthy process that a lot of people don't appreciate it. They just think, oh, send me 10 million proofs, and I'll let you know which one I like. And I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. People just, I don't know how to explain it. That's a whole other topic and a whole other story. But, so yeah, we work with a lot of vehicles. We could also do the inside of a full retail space. So let's say you were ready to open a new business, and you need everything top to bottom. You need T-shirts, business cards, menus. You need the walls designed. You need the floors designed. You need anything you pretty much need marketing-wise that you can hold or put on for a business, I make. So it's a lot of stuff. And when people ask me, well, what is Big Splash? I'm like, well, it's not one simple answer. It's not like, oh, I work with vinyl. You know, I mean, we are the largest purchasers of 3M vinyl in the state because we pump out a lot. Pump out a lot of work.
I didn't know that. That's really cool, actually.
Yeah. So that's one thing I'm definitely like proud of. So when I have reps trying to call me, like, they take me serious. You know. But what else you guys got for me? Because I could just keep going.
I heard you recently wrapped a Ford Mustang.
Yes. So Ford Mustang. That was your vehicle.
Yep.
Came out sick. We were originally going to do the Nardo Gray, but I said that it looks white.
Yep.
So now
Yeah.
you wouldn't know that unless someone told you from experience.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So my one friend, he got his AMG C63. I think it's actually a 63C. It's actually really fast, and
It better be.
yeah, the thing is insane. And he actually took like the exhaust and he did something with it, and he had automatic start, and every time he would scare the shit out of people. Oh my! He got me every time. I would jump every time he started the car. I've never heard anything like it. But he got the Nardo Gray, so I would drive by it. You know, I'd drive by his house. I'm like, wait, his car's white? I'm like, oh wow, I gotta make sure nobody ever gets this. You know, it's a white car, so. Yeah.
Well, no, I was grateful for the advice because it came out absolutely great. We'll put a picture or two on the screen for the audience to see the finished results there. So Nick, do you want to touch upon your other businesses before we get into your background and your career?
Yeah. So I'll brush up on them, and then I'll tell you how I got kind of into them. Like I said, I could be here for a long time, going in depth with a lot of different situations.
I see a second episode in the near future.
Oh yes.
Yeah, definitely. I could talk for days, especially about things that I'm passionate about. So I also am in the vape industry, the CBD industry, the pizza industry, boating pizza industry. I've tried almost everything under the sun. I'm trying to get into additional businesses now, but my one thing is finding good people who are very hungry. That's I can't expand until I find good managers or good partners, things like that. So right now I know that the marijuana industry is about to blow up around here. So I have my cousin Jimmy. He, was very persistent. Nick, I want to make money. Nick, I want to make money. I want to open a business. I'm like, listen, I can't do any work. I'm maxed out with my time. I go, if you can put in the work and you can do everything, I will give you all the tools that you need to get it done. So we finally kind of pulled the trigger on something, and we've been looking at locations to go into kind of like a second JR Vape is. That's my vape shop. And kind of turn it into more of a smoke shop, less vape. So once marijuana gets legalized, people are going to buy more pipes, more devices, more bongs and all that stuff. So I can open a chain of those, and they do really well. So
Absolutely.
That's something I'm working on now. I just came up with a absolutely genius app idea. I don't know if I should say it.
Probably not.
No.
Probably
it's
not.
so good. Like, I'll tell you guys when we turn this mic off that you're going to be like, holy shit, I would use that all day long. It's one of those ideas, when you're like, why didn't I think of that? That's so simple, but it's genius. It's so stupid. Like, how could I not think of that? It's one of those. And I've had these developer kids in my back pocket they live in New York City, but they're like geniuses. And, I tried to do a couple things with them, but it was like really expensive because the stuff they do is crazy. So,
especially in New York City, that's going to be some expensive work.
Yeah, they're good. So I finally got a sick idea, but I just have to do some research, and I need to kind of partner up with someone. I'll tell you guys after, but go ahead.
All right, so why don't you touch upon you as an individual, your background, who you are. Tell the audience about Nick D'Ambrosio.
Wow, that's really long. You guys ready?
We'll give you 5 minutes.
5 minutes,
Speed
more like
round.
a couple of hours. Me. How do I explain me? I started as a kid in Brooklyn, New York. I grew up there pretty much, doing kid stuff, roam the streets. My father I'm Italian background, very Italian. My grandfather came over onto Ellis Island, and he was one of the original, roots. So my grandfather was a very, respected man. He's the one guy in my life. He pretty much raised me as a kid. So I have I have like that old school mentality because my father wasn't really in my life. But my dad was a good guy. He was a very well-respected guy. But my grandfather was a killer and my father was a killer. Straight up. I could tell you guys that because they're both dead and it's public. You can go on Wikipedia. So I come from a pretty hard background, So what happened was my mom and my dad, they didn't really get along too much, even though she had 5 kids with them. Oh, I'm one of 12, by the way. So I have 11 brothers. I have 11 brothers and sisters. Yeah. So if you can imagine,
I remember Marie telling me that.
Yeah, if you can imagine the chaos it is with a lot of brothers and sisters, if I had a TV show, we would be so set because it is absolute like madness, 24/7. When I like stuff that you would probably cringe to because some shit's like, I can't curse, but effed up, So finally, my mom broke away from my dad. I'm not going to get into that detail because it's crazy.
Of course, yeah.
But she broke away. We came to Jersey, and it was me and it was like 7 of us at the time. I have 2 older brothers than me. Everybody else is younger. I'm the first of the D'Ambrosios. So there's 2 Di Donatos, 2 of my older brothers, 5 D'Ambrosios, and 5 D'Annunzios. So there was 3 marriages, all Italian, and it was 2, 5, 5. So I still have a bunch of younger brothers and sisters. My sister is actually the same age as my daughter. So I had my daughter at 23. I had my daughter young. But I didn't mind. I kind of wanted to be a dad young because I just learned so much of what not to do that I just wanted to be like a father soon so I could like be the perfect dad. You know what I mean? Because the way I look and the way I think other people should look at their parents, if they were bad parents, is you learned everything what not to do and what not to be.
Right.
So you know not to be that towards your kids. You don't want the apple to fall from the tree.
Right.
You want to change that course.
Right.
Now, I can't say the same for all my brothers and sisters, but I know that I did. So I try and be a role model to them, and they all do look up to me. I think most of them look up to me like I'm their father in a way. But I did have a stepdad who was a really good guy. Total opposite of my dad. So if you ever read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you guys ever heard of it?
I've read it.
So you have both sides of the spectrum. So when I moved out to Jersey, like I was saying before, my mom ended up meeting my stepdad. Complete opposite. Also Italian, white collar stockbroker, went to church every Sunday, really like religious. Like the guy is a saint, absolute saint. So I had white collar stockbroker, really, religious stepdad, and then I had gangster, murderer, crackhead, shake you down and go in your pockets dad. But I mean, he had a really good reputation, and then once drugs got in the mix, things took a turn for the worst. Right. So
let me ask you real quick then. With these 2 experiences, what really kind of pushed you towards entrepreneurship? Is it what you always wanted to do?
So that's a good question. How it all started was I was in high school, right? I guess it was freshman year, and when you get those little blue tickets for like the poor kids?
Yeah.
Because you get the free lunch. Yeah. So I got to the point where I was so embarrassed that I had to go in that I would wait for the line to end, and I'd run in and I'd throw the ticket like to the lady and say, okay, I'm good, and so no one would see it. And I couldn't get like extra snacks or this or that, and I was a grown kid. I was hungry. So I guess you could say I was hungry, right?
Quite literally.
Yeah. Now at this point, we lived in a nice house with my stepdad and my mom. Like I didn't live in like the ghetto or nothing like that, but I didn't have anything of my own. I had nothing. You know, if I wanted a new pair of shoes, like the only people who ever gave me any money or anything were my grandparents. And they ended up cutting me off when I was, I think, about 17. Yeah. I think I was 16 or 17. They just completely, it's not like they would give me thousands of dollars. It was only when I begged, like, listen, we need school clothes, or like a few dollars for like extra money for lunchtime and stuff like that. So me, I was a really giving, caring, nurturing kid, and we had a big empty basement. So I would, you know, feel bad for some kids that I hang out with and be like, yeah, you could, because I live next to kind of a trailer park.
Right.
And, you know, I was around a lot of kids who weren't as fortunate to live in a nice house. So I'd let them sleep at my house. And my mom, my stepdad, they kind of let me do whatever I want.
Mm-hmm.
I never had any rules, any discipline, nothing at all, at all. So I just roamed the streets, straight up. I mean, I had a good childhood because I wasn't a bad kid.
Right.
I just beat it to my own drum, you know? So I had this kid, his name was actually Nick, and I allowed him to live with me. So he goes, hey, Nick, you wanna sell some weed? He's like, I can get an ounce from my brother. I was like, I don't know what it is. I'm like, all right. I mean, we could try it.
How old are you at this point?
I was 16.
Okay.
16.
Wow.
I think that's the first time I actually tried weed. So I was like, all right. So I remembered at this place called Adrenal. It was a tattoo shop. I didn't know anything about scales or anything like that. These guys, I remember they charged me $130 for a scale like this big. I know they absolutely robbed me blind, but I didn't know any better. I was just a kid. So we got that so we could sell the bags, and I ended up blowing through the whole ounce. He sold almost nothing because I had a little notepad. I had a little safe from my dad, and I would just store everything in there, and I would write down every sale. And at the end of it, I was like, wow, I just made some serious money. I'm like, I got to do this again. And then ever since I got that taste for money, I just exploded.
Stuck with you?
My mind just was like, it's endless. Like, I have money, I'm in control. I have the power now. When I tell you I went so crazy, I was working all hours of the night. Like, call me the Dub King. Like, I was so busy. I was selling dubs I would have 3 people meet me in the same parking lot and hit them off. Boom, boom, boom. And, you know, if it snowed out, yeah, guess what? I'm charging extra. $15, $20 extra. I'm going in a snowstorm. No one's delivering, but I am. It didn't matter what it was. If I had to meet you in the woods, had to drive my bike through the trail, I was going, you know? So I was a little wild. And then one day I had some gas. It was fire. I lived upstairs in it was like the 4th floor. It was kind of like the attic was my room. And it was really good stuff, and it stunk my whole house up. And my mom comes home, and she goes berserk. She flips out, and I'm like, oh, shit. She's like, you can either stop selling or get the F out of my house.
That's right.
I go, I'm getting out. I moved out of my house at 18 years old, and I somehow got approved for an apartment. I have no idea how. And once I got that apartment, it was game on, and I just hustled my ass off. I just wanted to make as much money as I could so I can get in and get out. And ever since then, it was kind of like I saved my money. I was always a really big saver, right? Now, there's a lot more of the story from there, but that's pretty much how I got a taste for entrepreneurship. And go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, transitioning from that into, you know, legitimate businesses. What kind of, you know, what was the story with that? What was your first business that wasn't, you know, grinding it out? Yeah.
So I'll tell you. So even during that time and before that, you know, I always had the hustling mentality. So what I was doing as a kid is I was actually doing accounting, and I had no idea. I was doing inventory inventory reconciling.
Oh, yeah.
Say that right? So I was doing inventory. So what I did is I had a little notebook, and every sale that I made, I wrote down, and every dime that I made, I wrote down. at the end of the day, I would, do my totals, and then at the end of the week, I would do my totals. Okay, I made $4,000 this week, but I spent $1,000. And then at the end of the month, I would do my total, and I would see exactly how much I spent and then what I made. So then I ended up taking it a step further, and because I got really bad OCD, and I'm very I have a lot of discipline with myself, because I know if you're organized and you're on point, you're more efficient.
I think we're all like that, personally.
Yeah.
I didn't know this at the time.
That's
it was
funny.
just
You
who
made
I was.
QuickBooks for yourself.
So,
right.
So here you go. What I did was I had a manual QuickBooks, but actually I got something more simple. It was called Quicken Essentials.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what it was, but it was basically a basic accounting program. So what I did, you're not supposed to do this when you're selling weed, but I did it anyway, because I'll tell you why. So I would write down the name. It obviously would have the date and the sale. So let's say I got set up, right? And I'd say 3 months ago, I sold to Jimmy. I sold him, let's say, a quarter ounce. Then I know the exact date and time. I know who I sold to. So I was also protecting myself.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I was doing is I was matching up my handwritten books to my Quicken Essentials. So I was literally driving myself insane, because my OCD was so through the roof. I was matching numbers. I'm like, why is it $5 short? This doesn't make sense. And I was driving myself crazy. I did it for a year straight. So I did that, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to stick to one of them. And I think I just stuck to the program. I think I did it for I was selling for 2 years. So when you ask the question, how did that form into legitimate business? During all these times, I didn't just do that. I would take my money and I'd try and invest in things. What else can I hustle? What else can I sell? I remember I was doing sneakers, knockoff sneakers from China. So I had a connection that brought me to New York City. I would go in these underground places and buy tons of sneakers and hustle.
Oh, man.
$75, $80 a pop, nice stuff, stuff that we wear now, except it's Chinese knockoff.
Yeah.
Good quality. So I did that. What else was I hustling? Oh my God. I remember I started a telemarketing company. This is when I was 20, 21. I set up a telemarketing company in my basement with one of my friends, invested a few thousand into it. We bought leads. We're doing student loan consolidation. I opened up I was going partners with my brother. He was an electrician. I was like, listen, I'm going to learn how to read blueprints. I'm going to buy all the tools, we'll buy the truck, and we'll open our own electrical contracting company. The tools sat in the truck for literally 3 years. I think I still have some of the tools sitting brand new in the box. What else did I hustle? Oh my God. I can't think of all the things, but I've literally tried every single business possible. I even tried loaning out money. I was loaning out money at one point. Obviously not supposed to do that, but I was pretty much a loan shark. I'm like, oh, you need $5,000? Well, I want 4% on top a week. That didn't work out well. Tried the booking thing.
That doesn't
didn't
usually work out well.
It doesn't, because you realize that anybody who's that broke and needs the money, majority of the time, they have a problem already with money.
Yeah.
Right.
So for them to pay you with the big on top
gonna
is
happen.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anything that popped in front of me, I would try it. I would test it. If it didn't work, I'd try for, a month, 2 months. If I'm like, nah, you know what? This isn't for me. It's not working. It's not going smooth, And then I forget how I led into the one thing, but all right. So I'm going to let you.
Yeah, all right.
Ask
So
something,
come
'cause I'm gonna
come
keep
back
going.
to it. What was your first LLC that you established?
That would have been, was it the student loan consolidation or the...
So you started pretty young with just legitimate, through the government, all
Yes,
of the, okay.
Yes, always. So I knew, listen, I knew I was doing something wrong in the eyes of the law, but, I didn't know anything. I didn't have anybody to guide me or to show me. I wasn't good in school. I pretty much grew up in the street. I didn't have a dad to really guide me or show me the way. So what I would do, and this was a strategy that I definitely recommend to everyone, any kid who doesn't have a father or parents or someone, to look for someone who will mentor you. So as a kid, when I was 14, 15, 16, I would attach myself to men that lived in my neighborhood, and I would hang out with them. I would say, can I help you? Can I come with you? You know, then I was going to auctions, from house auctions to car auctions. I was going to casinos at, 19 years old. I was able to expand my mind by just talking to older men. Even if they had experience in something, anything, at least I learned it. Because it's not like I had a dad to like go hang around with all the time. My stepdad really wasn't my dad. I didn't never call him dad. He was just very different. I was a New York kid. New York mentality, street smart. He was a very, white collar, straight, school kid. So me and him didn't really, it's not like we didn't get along.
Right.
He just went his way, I went my way, So I didn't have someone that hit home. So I constantly looked for a mentor, someone to guide me, someone to show me anything. And there was this one guy on my block, his name was Rob, and he was actually from Brooklyn. And if I tell you this story, I don't know if we have time to tell it now, because it's absolutely insane.
Right.
This guy
Maybe for
Rob-
another episode, yeah.
Or we could
His
do it
name-
for a story of the week at the end.
I want to actually, cut, because I've got notes here, right? And I think this is really funny. And the notes kind of tell me what I want to, touch upon. And you covered all of them. So create a business plan. You talked about that. You talked about the upbringing, stuff like that. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You just explained the mentors, going, attaching yourself to the people that knew what they were doing and, going with that. Build the right team. We talked about
all
kind of the
about-
people that you were involved with,
I'd love
right?
to get more into
Yeah, that one
each
we're actually going to come back
category,
to. Don't ignore the numbers. You actually started out with that one.
Oh, I got to
You
tell
know,
you, there's
talking
a car
about
wash I was
QuickBooks and all
opening right
that.
up the street from here. I'll tell you how I had that opportunity. I actually was a partner in a used car dealership at one point through my friend Rob. I have so many different things. I'm not thinking of them now, but this is all as a young kid.
That's funny.
that I tried. But go
So
ahead.
let's go back then to building the right team, right? Because you said that currently it's difficult, and I think that's just a combination of both kind of the modern lifestyle that's been, especially on our kind of East Coast environment, been inquisitive, and obviously COVID-19 does not help. It's definitely not a good thing overall for business.
Definitely
But tell us a little bit more about kind of the teams you've been a part of. What you think is good, bad. What you think about that topic.
Okay, so I learned a valuable lesson about team, like having a good teammate or a good team in general. So I always knew that I wanted a partner, and a good partner where I knew I can lean on them, and be supported. Like we can bounce things off of each other, but I never really had that person. And I always knew it in the back of my head. I'm like, I just want someone to just have that I can explode with. Typically at our age now, I feel like it should be your wife. You guys should be sick teammates, and take over everything together.
Yeah.
But, unfortunately, don't have that, and I didn't have it. But at that point, at a young age, I tried to do everything by myself. Everything and anything. I go, I'm a Lone Ranger. Nobody's on my page. No one's going to, be able to do what I can do. And I did everything alone for a long time. And the minute I kind of accepted it and I took people in, I kind of exploded, right? I had a team. I took someone in, and I was able to rely and depend and bounce things off and just focus on my area, and he can focus on his, and you make so much more money when you have a good team. You cannot thrive anywhere or in anything without partnerships, teammates, good workers. It just doesn't work. I don't even know how to stress it enough, but I can't say it's easy to find good teammates and good partners, especially when you're, a really good, true, honest person. A lot of people don't know that when you get into business and you guys both don't have money, you've never been in the situation where you guys know each other with money. And money changes people. It changes most people. So the minute you get a bunch of money in your pocket and he's got a bunch of money in his pocket, you may be the same guy, but he's totally different. You guys start butting heads, and before you know it, the whole house comes crumbling down. It's the same thing. You meet a girl, right? She's great. Everything's going good. She love your life. The minute you guys move in together, she's a totally different person. You're like, you weren't like this when I met you. You weren't you would come and hang out at my house and cook and clean, and now you don't want to do anything, So you can always relate personal relationships to business. I always compare the two. It just works every
absolutely.
single time.
For sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, but
And I was going to say something, and I'm actually starting. Okay, so this is what I wanted to say. So, for example, EDE, we've got a pretty good team. And by that I mean kind of size-wise, like it's a pretty substantial team, especially for how long we've been in the business. The amount of quality people, and we've been through good and bad, and we have some guys that didn't really work out with our company. But the amount of quality people that we currently have, working for us, I think is incredible.
We're really lucky.
And yeah,
especially
I
after
was going to
hearing
say,
what
like,
Nick is
a lot
doing.
of it actually kind of comes down to luck, but we try to create the right environment and everything. But I wanted to say, I have met so many unbelievably talented kids in my life, kids that can do the most insane things. For example, one of my friends, we were the first people in New Jersey to get an FAA drone license because he spent 12 hours on the phone with the FAA getting transferred from one place to the other. He did not give up. If they hung up on him, he called them back.
persistence.
And they said, take
That's
it,
what it's about.
please leave us alone. Take your stupid
That's
drone
it.
license. Oh my God,
Persistence is
just
definitely
let
a
us
key-
go.
key trait to have.
Very talented kid, but super just, wants to do a bunch of things. And it isn't that he doesn't want to put the work in. It's just that when it gets tedious, when it gets the same thing over and over again and it's hard, that's when a lot of really talented people kind of start to fall off.
Yeah.
And you got to find that balance between like super talented person that you can't control, that just runs wild and does what they want, and someone who's got the talent and willing to back it up, with that kind of work and frame and understand that, hey, if I got to do something that I hate for 6 months straight, I'm going to do it and I'm going to be great at it and I'm going to go back to what I like, but we're going to get through it.
It's
as
called
opposed
discipline.
Exactly,
It's
like you
called
said,
discipline.
discipline, as opposed to, I'm a great guy, I got all these talents, all these abilities, if I don't want to do something, screw it, I'm not doing it.
Now, there's a way to kind of harness that. So if you're, your mind always runs wild, but you're a really smart person, it all comes down to strategies, right? Strategies of how to maximize your efficiency. So if you just dig a little bit and look into, you got to learn about yourself. You got to look into self-motivation, self-help. The only reason why I'm in the position that I am is because I had so much alone time to ask questions. Life is all about the questions you ask yourself. So if you ask yourself bad quality questions, you get bad quality answers. You have to somehow retrain your subconscious mind to, when you walk into a room, what is your mind automatically thinking?
Right.
You have your conscious mind where you know what's going on, and then you have your autopilot mind. So it's very big to find ways and strategies to kind of harness that energy straight up, and there are ways to do it.
Absolutely.
You just have to look, you have to listen. And that's why the reason why I'm on this podcast, a lot of people, they don't even know what podcast is, or they don't want to listen. Podcast is one of the biggest reasons for my success. Why? Because podcasts are where you find mentors. It's an audio mentor where you just learn things you would have never learned or never heard in your life. Anytime I get in a rut, what do? I put on podcasts. From listening to Tony Robbins to Joel Brown to, what's the other one I listen
Rogan.
to? I like Rogan. When I'm listening to a podcast, I can only focus on 3.
Yeah.
And there's so
There's a
much
lot
in those
going on.
ones. And I love Joe Rogan.
It's
Like,
more
he's
of
the
an
man.
entertainment than it is like
Yeah,
an
for
actual.
sure. So I would say that podcasts definitely have been mentors for me throughout my life, and they've taught me so many tricks, strategies, tools, things that I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to use this right now. And it puts your mind in a whole nother realm, gives you a whole nother perspective on anything in life. It could be relationships, it could be business, it could be, creating something. It could be about sleep. It could be about something about your body, something about your mind. It could be anything at all. So that's when it comes down to, do you want answers? What do you want out of life, right? So you have to say, okay, here's my goal. This is what I want out of life. Now, how the hell are you going to get there? You got to ask questions. If you don't know, you got to ask. Just like in school, you don't know something, raise your hand. If you're out of school, who would you ask for answers? Podcasts.
Yeah.
Straight up.
You got to be willing to learn.
You have to be willing to listen and learn. And think about it. You can be the smartest person in the world, right? You could know everything. But if you don't utilize that, you don't utilize that knowledge, you're wasted talent. That's the definition of wisdom is applied knowledge.
Yeah.
So Now, there's a few ways to learn lessons and get experience. You can learn from your own experiences, and then you can learn from other people's experiences. And that's what a podcast is. You kind of get to jump the gun, cheat the system. People don't take advantage of those things, and it's
Right.
like, why?
Yeah,
Why?
exactly.
Yeah.
I try and tell people about podcasts all the time, and I've literally had people like, yo, turn this shit off. I'm like, just please listen. It's so good. It's so valuable. I'm like, you see where I'm at? You see what I have? I'm like, don't you want it a little bit? I'm like, then why? If you're not hungry for success,
And it's so heartbreaking, right? Like sometimes
Yeah.
you meet these kids and they're like, I just want to listen to my music
They
and I
wanna
want to do
just-
my drugs and I just don't care.
they're content. They're content.
And it's like, you
I
know.
think ultimately it comes down to, like, especially recently, the past 10 years, like, people are so visual now, and like just have this attention span, like, especially with
Bad.
this whole Instagram scrolling, Facebook
100%
scrolling, like, it just comes down to, like, people's attention spans and, like,
Yup.
what they're able to focus on. But ultimately, like, you see all these successful people, and I don't think that sort of thing matters to people that are willing to learn and listen and, have that hunger for new information and important information. And you're right. I mean, a lot of these podcasts do have that information, but a lot of people don't see it. And I think
Sure.
it's due
They
to this, visual hunger for, stimulating.
they want instant gratification.
Exactly.
They want to pop that
exactly.
pill and make it all just disappear
For
or
sure.
all appear.
Exactly.
You know?
When in reality, that's not how it works.
And-
This stuff takes time. You
and
need
I'll
to sit.
give you a prime sorry to cut
No,
you
you're
off
good.
because my brain, once I forget something, it's like gone forever.
Get it?
So I'll give you a prime example of this. So me knowing that I never had a mentor in my life unless I went and sought out for it. Like, I wish I had someone like myself for me when I was a kid. So, I have kids hit me up on Instagram and, they'll ask me questions and say, yo, Nick, like, I see everything you have. Like, how do I get there? What do you do? I go, listen, I'm one of the busiest people I know. Doesn't matter. Come to my office. You want to hang around me? You want to follow me? You want to drive my car and just listen to me speak, be around my environment? Come through. I have a wide open door. Now, here's the problem. The amount of kids that I let in my door and sit at my desk, they last a couple of days. And they see, I guess, how much work it is. And
That's right,
they're
yeah.
just not, it's not like this. And they just disappear. Or maybe never show up at all, and they'll type these really nice long things, and I'm like, that's really nice, like, you seem really genuine, and I get excited because I'm like, someone
people
wants to
don't
learn.
realize. Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly.
I'm like amped up because I want to give all the things that I learned and all the things that I taught myself and all the the pitfalls that I've had and things that I've conquered. I want to share it with people, because at the end of the day, if I give what I have to someone and they don't have to learn it the hard way, they're going to appreciate me. And
Right.
what's better than someone appreciating something you did for them?
Absolutely.
There's no value. It's invaluable. It's priceless.
Yeah.
So, but that's what brings me joy and happiness. It's contribution. Growth and contribution are the two things that you don't necessarily need in life, but those are the two that make you happy.
Right.
So as long as you're growing or you're giving something back in some way, form, or fashion, you're gonna feel good inside, and that's something that I enjoy. But every person that's ever came to my office or came and hung out with me, I've had a handful, that have taken my advice. And I'll give you an example. Like I had this one kid, he hits me up, hung out with me for like a couple of days. I gave him my advice. I gave him lessons, I told him what to do. And 2 months later, he sends me a picture of a Rolex. And he's like, listen, Nick, he's like, I just want to thank you for everything you told me, everything you taught me. He goes, I know this isn't much. He's like, but I listen to everything. And he goes, I'm doing absolutely amazing. He just was so appreciative that he took what I gave him, he used it, he
Right.
actually listened, and he's making money. He's like, bro, I'm making sick money right now. It's like, it's crazy. I've saved people's lives. Like my one friend, he's probably might listen to this. I'm not going to say no names, but he's like, listen, Nick, before I met you, like, I was going to kill myself. And he's really grateful and really appreciative for that. And he thanks me all the time. And he's like, Nick, he's like, if I never, decided to meet you that day, because he was like in a really bad position in life, and I helped him out. but I didn't even think I was helping.
Right.
It was just
and
who
that's the
I
thing.
was.
Like, when people hear I helped somebody out, they assume you put him in your house, you put him food on the table, you gave him
No.
money, or maybe he was in a lot of debt and you paid it off, and that's
No,
not
that
it.
wasn't
You know,
it at
people
all.
have the wrong idea.
He just wanted to listen. He
Exactly.
wanted to help himself. So I just gave him whatever I had, and he made it work.
Right.
And he was grateful for that. And
Right.
it's like someone who can thank you for saving their life because you just helped them by you being you. It's like
Priceless.
nothing makes you feel better than that, you know.
Right.
But go ahead. What were you trying
So
to
I
say?
wanted to move on. We've had some questions here,
Last
and a lot
two
of
or
these
three, yeah.
we've actually already covered. Is what I'm getting to. But there's one that I personally am really interested in,
Okay.
and but aside from like other people or like listening to a podcast and being like, wow, like this is really great. Where do you find inspiration? Because I'm sure there have been times in your life where you're doing something and you're like, man, none of this even matters. Like, what the heck am I doing? You know?
Okay, so inspiration. This one's kind of like a little
And
strategy.
you can link it with motivation too. Like to me, those two things kind of go together. Like inspiration, motivation.
I'll
Like
give
to
you-
keep you going.
I'll give you a good one, and I haven't done it in a while, and honestly, I need it so bad. All right, so I used to go out to California a lot, and I would rent houses, like on Airbnb, whether it was with friends or someone, was doing something. And I would go in these mansions, and I would live the life as if I was rich. And I would visualize, like, this is what I want. Well, even if it's for a day. You're able to put yourself directly in the position and feel it. And when you feel it, it's a totally different situation. When you believe something, cool. But then when you're inside it and you feel it and you believe it, that's when you really make it happen.
Right.
Because now you can hold it in your hands, you can touch it. Now it's like it's in full throttle. So go rent a house, go put yourself in a Lambo, go put yourself in that position that you want to be in, even if it's for an hour, even if it's for 10 minutes, so you can actually, like, I don't know how to explain it, but you're just in it.
Right.
So rent a house.
And like use it to inspire yourself
you,
as opposed
yeah.
to like, oh, I rented a Lambo, I'm gonna go haul ass because it's fun, you know?
Yeah.
Instead of doing it solely to flex,
Yeah.
create
Right.
use it to create a hunger
Yeah.
in order to.
It's like, now
drive
I know
yourself.
exactly what it's like. So when you go about your day and it pops in your mind,
Right.
and you remembered you were sitting in that Lambo and you feel how the leather felt and you feel the shifter felt and all the buttons, you're visualizing it in your mind, and you're putting that energy back out into the world so it could just come right back to you. And that's what
right.
it's all about. And a huge part of that, and it's a little long to explain, but I'll give you the basic of it. And this is huge. And I literally, every time I meet somebody new and they're like hang out at my house or stay, I go, listen, do you know what the secret is? They're like, what's the secret? I'm like, you don't know what the secret is? The secret of life? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, I gotta tell you. I was like, have you ever heard of the law of attraction? And they're like, most people say no. And I'm like, all right, well, there's a book, but you don't have to read it because there's like a movie documentary.
Yep.
I go,
I think it's called The Secret.
it is.
Yep.
I go, I'm only putting it on if you pay attention. Like, this is something that I truly value and I really believe in. If you don't, I'm going to be really mad. So I'm not going to put it on unless if you really want things in life and you want to know how I got them, I'm like, I'm going to show you. So I put it on for a lot of people, and it's the law of attraction. It's kind of like what you give, or the energy that you put out is really what you get back out of life. And I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but it's on Netflix. It's called The Secret. If you want to have a strategy, a tool, it's more than a strategy and a tool. I've literally sat in my car at some points and I've literally reflected back and I've literally started crying because the things that I've had and gotten in my life down to the exact pinpoint color was because of the law of attraction. Like, anybody who follows it and believes in it, you'll realize that they're a successful person. They just have that. It's all about learning how to control the energy. It's where to focus the energy, how to focus the energy. It's answers to questions that you probably have.
Right.
It all comes down to people who really want answers out of life. And if you don't want answers and you want to live a content life, you want to live in the world of ignorance is bliss, then so be it. But if you want more out of life, ask more questions, get more answers.
All right.
We'll ask one more question. I'll do it. All right. So, what's your favorite part about being an entrepreneur?
Oh boy, favorite part. I don't know. It's all pretty hard. My favorite part about being an entrepreneur is the beginning stages. I like to innovate. I like to create. I like to start building it up. You know, the very beginning is like my favorite part because I get to take all my ideas and start plugging them together and see it come to life. So once it's built and, you know, running, I'm like, all right, well, I'm bored now. I don't want to manage this. I want someone else to manage it so I can go
Right.
build and create the next thing.
Right.
So what I did, and I realized, I'll give you the answer to this, is I took a test called the Fascinate test. Now, you can take tests on your, I guess, your character, your behavior.
Mhm.
Like, there's all different self-tests that you can take. You know, don't you want to learn about yourself? Well, Google it, and you can find a bunch of cool ones. So this one's the Fascinate. So I took this test by asking, 50, 100 questions, and it spit out what type of person that people view me as and what type of person I am. And I took the test. I'm an innovator and a creator. So it's like I'm a very innovative type of person. And I go, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And then I had a bunch of other key points. I don't know because I took it 8 months ago. But everything it had on it was so pinpoint dead on. I was like, wow, this is really cool. There's all types of really crazy stuff out there.
Want to ask one more question, or we'll move on to story?
Yeah, let's move on. I don't know how much time we have left. It seems
about
like we're
5 minutes, 5-10 minutes.
yeah, we're still slowly running
So usually,
out.
at the end of each podcast, we save a little time for each person or whoever has a story or lesson of the week.
I gave a lot
Jared,
of
you
those
want to
already.
start?
Yeah.
Somebody will save your next story for next time. Jared, you want to go?
Yeah, sure, why
Go
not?
ahead.
So, I mean, the lesson of the week for us here at EDE was definitely plan for every project well, and it'll only help you in the long run when you try and execute. We just took on a really, really big project with BMW this week.
Nice.
Oh, that's right. That was massive.
What do you guys got?
30-minute feature for their new 4 Series coupe
reveal.
release. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I'll show you the video.
It's
Yeah.
going to be like on a commercial?
So
Type
they
of
wanted
thing?
to live stream it, but ultimately it's going to be posted everywhere at all their social media. But it was really big.
That's bigger
Corporate
than a
was
commercial.
watching. Really, really cool experience. We had a full week of shooting behind that. And it was planned out great. We were on a time crunch, but we got it done.
Is it done? Can I see it?
It is done.
Yeah,
It
I'll
actually,
share with you
it
later.
aired last night
Sweet.
for the first time, and I'm really happy with how it went.
Dope.
We had a lot of fun people working on it between the dealership and all of our employees. But once again, when you put good, solid planning into something and use that in order to execute it right, you're only going to benefit and learn in the end. Just from running through it the first time, like Matt said when we were talking earlier, we're only going to do this better next time. Every
Right.
time we execute, we learn, and like you said, you got to be willing to learn from those experiences in order to
course.
grow. So I think the lesson from this week is put a lot of effort into anything that you're doing, because ultimately, no matter how well you do, you're always going to
It's called
do better
pride
next
at the
time.
end of the day.
Exactly.
And a lot of people don't know how to apply it to everything.
For sure.
And the way I see the point that you just made, and I try and tell a lot of people don't really listen when I talk, but I say some good shit. So putting pride into something, like me, I will not do something unless I know I can do it 100%.
Yeah, Jared is definitely
Then
that
you
way.
see,
For sure.
see it.
The amount of times that we have tried to physically pry him off of the computer, as in,
yeah.
this project is really good,
Oh, yeah.
way better than it needs to be. Please stop working on it. And he's like, no, I can make it that 0.01% better. I'm going to spend the next 2 hours doing it, and it's
'Cause
going
he
to be
knows
perfect.
That it's like
Yeah,
when
man.
he puts it out there, he's like, "This is me. I made this. I created it, and no one's gonna have anything to say because I put my, sweat and tears into this thing."
Yeah.
And that's how I go about everything in my life.
Yeah.
That's why when people do things and they half-ass them, I'm like, how do you even have respect for yourself? I'm like, if you don't respect the things that you do, that you got to show other people, it's like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
I'm like, you're just not. I can get into that. It's the whole other story. I got a
Yeah,
lot
no,
of different
no.
topics. I can get
Episode
into.
2 when they
Yeah,
come
so
in.
coming back to the lessons of the week, I actually had one planned, but I think I'm going to change it on the spot, and
I
we'll
have
see
another
how it
little
goes.
lesson that kind of joins with his too.
I've got a lesson of the week that actually has to do with Nick. And I met him for the first time recently. We sat down in his office. He showed up on this crazy BMW bike. I was going to joke and ask him how's his skateboard, but I didn't want anyone to get upset.
I think it's fast.
And I'm sitting there with him, and we're talking about digital marketing, and we really start getting into the nitty-gritty of it. Like, I get excited. I'm like, he's asking interesting questions. Like, he really wants to know how this stuff works.
Questions, baby.
Yeah, I was blown away, because most of the time people are like, give me the numbers. What's the best you've done? I'm like, we did this for that with this money. They're like, 6, sign me up. You know, and he's like, well, he asked me, he's like, well, why can't I just do it myself? Like, you're going to go on Facebook, on Google, put in the ads, do it myself. Like, what makes it different going with you than just sitting down and learning it myself? And I sit there and I'm like, well, I've got a million answers in my head that I usually give to clients when that answer pops up. But I'm going to take a chance and I'm going to say it's experience. And most people don't respect that. Most people are like, oh, yeah, sure, all you marketing agencies talk about your amazing experiences. But having talked to him, I figured, you know what, maybe he'll actually appreciate this answer. And I said experience.
And I did.
You know, we've learned from success and from failure. It's the same way that, you know, you wrapping cars. Yeah, I could Google how to wrap a car, you know, but it's not going to come out nearly as nice. You know, and that's exactly it. Like, we know what buttons to press, which buttons not to press, because we've been there, and we've been there, and that's what we do. That's what we're passionate about, you know, and he appreciated it.
Well,
and
I
think it was
he explained it way more complex than what
Yeah,
he's saying
yeah,
now.
yeah.
He went into way more depth than what he's saying.
Oh, absolutely.
So believe me. And there's a reason why I do that as well. One is to know, like, see how much, like, you guys really know.
Right.
And two is when you guys start explaining things to me, and I do this to all my friends and everybody who owns businesses, I go, listen, you got to tell me everything about your business, because guess what? If you're good at what you do and I have someone who needs you, I can now sell it for you.
Yeah, of course.
And it's not like I'm making money on it. I'm just helping you and I'm helping my other friend. And if I can help both you guys out, why not?
Right.
Why wouldn't I do that?
Right, absolutely.
So the more details I know about your business, your company, and you know, I meet a friend, I'm like, and he says something, I'm like, oh, I got just the guy. And then I start talking and I know more. Instead of calling you and getting you on the phone, I can almost sell it for you.
Yeah.
Again, not for the money,
No,
for the point that I can help him and I could help you. And that's how I go about everything in life.
Absolutely.
I really do. And then back to Jared, your point about planning ahead. Now, this is kind of planning way, way ahead, and it's a little lesson that I kind of want to touch on that a lot of people who get into businesses do not realize. It's the most basic, simple thing. I made the mistake, you know, a few times as a kid. And it comes down to the numbers, right? So you get an idea for a business and you say, oh, I'm going to do this, it's going to be great, or I'm going to invest in this and I'm going to change this and tweak that. And you start going crazy, you start doing all this research, you start looking for vendors and this and that and people, employees, building, how am I going to construct it? And then it gets down and you start investing the money and you go, wait a second, I can't make any money. This is going to take me years to make money. Mm-hmm. So what you have to do is you have to set, how much money do I want to make in the beginning, right? I'd say I want to make $100,000.
Yeah.
Add up all the expenses, all the employees, all the overhead, and you say, okay, how many sales do I have to make? 1, or 2, how many clients do I need? Mm-hmm. Start there with the numbers first and work backwards. Yeah. You know, so you say, okay, I want my $100,000. Okay, I need this many clients or I need this many sales. Now, is that even possible? You go, wait a second. The machine can't even move that fast. I can't pump out, 50 units a day. That means I could only make $40,000 a year. That's not going to work. I can't even do this. And then you just saved yourself weeks, if not months of time, and could be tens of thousands of dollars.
Lifetimes, yeah,
Think about
absolutely.
it. Yeah, you like it's
You
a
can't
big
get
mistake.
ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, I think we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so to close out this episode, next week, to give you a little episode sneak peek, the season 1 finale. Feels like yesterday we just started,
my
but
God, it really
the
does.
finale is next week, and that is going to be titled "What Lies Ahead: The Future of the Everyday Brand," and we will have a special guest on there. Also, a couple shout outs before we end the episode. First off to Uncle Vinny, listening all the way from Florida. Second off to Nick and the team at Big Splash.
Absolutely.
And last but not least to the Shared Universe, the podcast studio, Ming and Mike. They run a great studio here. They're great guys, and we always love coming in here. What a great experience.
Thank you, Mike. And Ming.
Yeah, you met Ming. Ming was the one you met. And for all the audience out there, be sure to check out our website, which is everydaypodcast.biz. Our Instagram is everydaypodcast.ig, and our YouTube is just the Everyday Podcast. Nick, thanks for coming on. We're definitely going to be having a couple more episodes with you, definitely in season 2. We hope you enjoy being on.
Definitely. I love this shit. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
No,
I
you're
appreciate
good,
it,
you're
guys.
good.
Sorry I was late. I was covered in dirt from head to toe. You don't even know what I went through to even get here. And I was still 20 minutes late.
This is why you need a TV show.
All
All right, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
We'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone,
Do
for
it.
tuning in.